Okay, welcome to class number 25. Yes, sir, 25 classes. We have a lot more ahead of us. We have a lot more classes ahead of us. But that doesn't take away from the fact. That doesn't take away. No quita el hecho de que es igual en inglés. That doesn't take away. Take away is quitar aquí. That doesn't take away from the fact that we're making good progress. We're moving forward at a brisk pace that is to my complete satisfaction. I'm satisfied with your progress and with my progress. I'm pleased with how this course is turning out. I'm pleased with the effort that the students are making. I'm satisfied. Okay? If I weren't satisfied, I would stop the program. And if you weren't satisfied, you would need to tell us, okay? Camera one. All right. Let's continue with the conditional. If I had $10 million, I would buy a very nice house. In fact, I would buy 2 houses. If I had $10 million, I would buy a house in Spain, and I would buy a house in the States. Now, if I had $1 million, I would also buy a new car. I don't know what kind of car I would buy, but if I had $10 million, which I don't, I would buy a nice car, yeah. And if I had $10 million, I would travel more, of course. I wouldn't take only 1 month for vacation. I would take 3 months. If I had $10 million, I would continue working, but I would work my way, not the boss's way. Yeah, I would work independently if I had $10 million. If I had $10 million, I would probably keep it in several different financial instruments. I would invest the money in different types of instruments. I would spread the risk. If I had $10 million, I would invest most of it, maybe 85% of it, and I would keep 15% of it in liquid assets, activos líquidos, in bank deposits, but I would keep the 15%, that's 1.5 million. 15% of $10 million is 1.5 million. So I would put about 1.5 million in different bank accounts in different banks. If I had $10 million, tax-free, toma, after paying taxes, I would invest the other 85% in different types of instruments, in different types of securities, valores. I wouldn't look for the best return. I would look for solid, good products. Okay? If I had $1 million, but I don't. If I knew Spanish perfectly, I would speak like you. If I knew the President of Spain perfectly, I would exist, I think German or Russian would be the first language in the world if the English-speaking world didn't exist. If Aprende Inglés TV didn't exist, you would have fewer opportunities to improve your English. If this television channel didn't exist, I would invent it again, okay, etc. El condicional es fácil, pero vamos a seguir R que R detrás de esto para que sea cada vez más fácil. See you in a few minutes after our next teacher.
Thank you very much, Richard. My name is Richard, of course, the other Richard, and welcome to the continuation of the review of yesterday's program. We're going to carry on with the second conditional, focusing on the negative. So I'm going to ask you and Susanna, who's with me. Hi, Susanna.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine.
Good. We're going to carry on asking Susanna and you at home hundreds and hundreds of questions. And I want you all, Susanna included, to answer in the negative. Yeah? Would you come if I invited you? No, I wouldn't come if you invited me, for example. Okay? Bien. Would you go out if it rained?
No, I wouldn't go out if it rained.
If it rained.
If it
Tú no
rained.
lluevas. It rains, okay?
Okay.
Again?
Yes.
Again?
Okay. I wouldn't go out if it rained.
Good. I wouldn't go out if it rained. Fantastic. Would you come if I asked you? Perfect English.
No, I wouldn't watch this program if I spoke perfect English.
Good. Good stuff. And at home? No, I wouldn't watch this program if I spoke perfect English. Okay, good stuff. Let's move on to the next point, which is continuing with the second conditional, but focusing on when we use the verb to be in the if clause, okay? For example, si yo fuera, if I were, siempre decimos were, you remember? I hope so, okay? If I were rich, si fuese rico. If I were there, si estuviera allí, okay? Very easy. Siempre es work para todas las personas gramaticales, okay? If I were, if you were, if he were, if she were, if they were, if quien sea were, okay? So let's carry on with some more questions. Susanna. If you were rich, would you buy a yacht?
If I were rich, I will buy a jet.
I would.
I would buy a jet.
A yacht.
A jet.
Not a jot, a yacht.
A yacht.
A yacht, eso es. If I were rich, I would buy a yacht, okay? If I were rich, si fuera rico, compraría un yate, okay? A yacht in inglés se dice. Okay, if you were the president of Spain, would you invade France? Si fueses la presidenta de España, ¿invadirías a Francia?
If I were the president of Spain,
Of Spain, ¿dónde está Spain? No existe como país.
Spain.
Spain, eso es.
I wouldn't invite
France. Good. Espero que no. If Susanna were the president of Spain, she wouldn't invade France. The next one. If
Me, I would try to keep it quiet. I would try not to tell other people if I won 50 million euros. If I offered you a free trip to New York by plane for a 5-day stay in a 4-star hotel, would you go? If you had the opportunity to go to New York for free for 1 week, would you be able to do it? Would your boss let you take a week off? If you won a trip for 5 days to Portugal, all expenses paid, would you take it or would you give it to another person? If you knew how to play the clarinet like Benny Goodman, would you become a professional musician? If you knew how to play chess like Garry Kasparov, would you try to become a chess master? If you knew how to play the guitar like Paco de Lucia, would you try to become a professional golfer? A golfer, que digo yo, guitarist. If you could play golf, que era la próxima pregunta, like Sergio Garcia, would you try to become a professional golfer? If you could teach English like me, would you leave your current job and become an English teacher? No lo hagas. All right? Okay. Time for a station break for our sponsors, and then I'll be right back. Okay. I have only 1 minute. Really, it's not easy to do something productive in only 1 minute. difference or not? Our tendency is to run when it starts raining hard. But my question is, do we get wetter if we walk or if we run? I don't know. But nevertheless, no obstante, nevertheless, todo junto, nevertheless, after this class, I'm going to go for my book. Now, I'm going to go even though it's raining, okay? It's raining. I can hear it on the roof of this building. You can't hear it through this microphone, but I can hear it, and Maria can hear it, and the sound and technicians and mixers, they can hear it. It's raining cats and dogs outside, but I'm going to go to my car to get that book, even though it's raining. Ahora, escuchad las otras dos alternativas que hemos visto hace una semana más o menos. I'm going to go to my car in spite of the fact that, that no es opcional, es obligatorio. I'm going to go, I'm going to go to my car in spite of the fact that it's raining, cats and dogs. I'm going to go to the car to get the book in spite of the fact that it's raining. I'm going to go to the car despite the fact that it's raining. Even though it's raining, I'm going to go to the car. Yes. All right. I'm going to go to the car because I desperately need that book. I can't do my next class without that book. And I forgot to bring it when I came for this class. I forgot to bring it and put it under the table here for the next class. So in spite of the fact that it's raining, a pesar de la lluvia, in spite of the rain, a pesar de que está lloviendo, in spite of the fact that it's raining, I'm going to go to the car, despite the rain, in spite of the rain, despite the fact that it's raining, in spite of the fact that it's raining, even though it's raining. Cinco formas de decir, pues lo mismo. All right. Now, I think it stopped. Yeah, it stopped raining. It's not raining anymore. I can't hear the rain. The raindrops are falling on my head. No, not true. It's not raining anymore. But, so, maybe I'll be lucky, and by the time we finish this class in a few minutes, I'll have time to go out to the car and the sky will be okay. It won't be raining. And I won't get wet. I won't. Fijaos cómo cierra esa cara oscura. I won't get wet. So, but it seems to me that it's not raining anymore. But even if it starts raining again, even if it starts raining again, I'll still go to the car to get the book, even if it starts raining again, okay? And even if I get soaking wet. To get wet is mojarse. To get soaking wet is empaparse. Calarse hasta los huesos, okay? To get soaking wet. To soak, escrito soak. Como jabón, si es que se escribe soap y se produce soap, quitas la P final, le pones una K y tienes dejar o poner en remojo, to soak.
Weather was bad, but he went anyway. Okay, so
He went despite the weather was bad.
despite the bad weather.
Okay.
Yes, repeat again.
He went despite the bad weather.
Okay, muy bien. So after despite, we have un sustantivo, right? Bad weather, o sea, weather, right? So despite the bad weather. So he went despite the bad weather, right? So let's repeat the sentence.
He went despite the bad weather.
Okay, very good. Now, I want you to say the same thing with despite the fact that. Ahora sí con frase completa después.
Okay. He went despite the fact that the weather was bad.
Okay, muy bien. Very good. Ahora sí, we have a complete sentence. Despite the fact that, a pesar de que, right, el tiempo estaba mal, or hacía mal tiempo, right? Okay, so he went despite the fact that the weather was bad. Ahora now with in spite of. In spite of, otra vez más, sustantivo.
Okay.
The same sentence, sí.
He went in spite of the bad weather.
Okay, muy bien. He went in spite of, conecta, in spite of. Let me hear you say in spite of.
In spite of.
Okay, muy bien. So remember, connect those three words de pronunciación. In spite of. He went in spite of the bad weather. Okay, now, in spite of the fact that, frase completa.
He went in spite of the fact that the weather was bad.
Okay, very good. Great. So what do we have here again? After despite plus noun. Okay? Despite the fact that plus frase completa, plus a complete sentence. Y después we have in spite of plus noun. Okay? And in spite of the fact that plus a complete sentence. All right, so, and you're saying the same thing. Las cuatro frases, the four sentences, you're saying the same thing, básicamente. Okay, next example. I had a cold, but I went to class anyway.
I went to class in spite of I had a cold.
In spite of, más sustantivo.
Okay. I went to class in spite of the cold.
My cold.
My cold.
Yes, eso es. Good. So, I went to class in spite of my cold. Okay, so let's now use in spite of the fact that, más frase completa.
Okay. I went to class in spite of the fact that I had a cold.
Eso es. Perfect. Bien. Now con despite plus noun.
I went to class despite of the cold.
Despite
of my cold.
No hay preposición después.
Okay. I went to class despite my cold.
Okay, muy bien. So cuidado aquí. Be very, very careful. Ojo, ojo, ojo. After despite, we don't put a preposition. I know it's a very strong urge and it's a lot of temptation, but resist. Resist the temptation. Okay, so please don't say despite of. No existe. In spite of, sí. Pero despite of, nunca, 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 nunca. So never, never, never. So I went to class despite my cold. Never despite of. I went to class despite the fact that I had a cold. See, I went to class in spite of my cold. And finally, I went to class in spite of the fact that, frase completa, I had a cold. Okay, bien. Let's do one more example. It was very hot, but everyone had a good time anyway.
Everyone had a good time. Sorry?
It was very hot.
Okay. It was everyone had a good time despite
the heat.
Despite the heat.
Okay, eso es, muy bien. Despite the heat, a pesar del calor. Okay, and then everyone had a good time despite the fact that it was hot. Everyone had a good time in spite of the heat. Y everyone had a good time in spite of the fact that it was hot. Okay, so keep practicing, and I'll see you next time. Back to Richard. Bye-bye.
All right. Welcome back. I just finished telling Maria a joke, okay? And she's laughing, I'm laughing. I hope you're laughing too, because I need happy students. Happy students make students who progress. Unhappy students don't progress. And I'm giving the best I can. I consider myself a good teacher, and I always try the best I can. I always give my 100%. And I think the rest of the colleagues, the rest of the teachers who are working with me on this project are also giving the best they can. So we would ask you, in return, a cambio, se dice en inglés, in return, o sea, en devolución, in return, we would ask you to please do the best you can. Because when you do the best you can, you're never disappointed. Even if the result is not the best, you know you did your best. All right. See you tomorrow.